Welcome back to The Real Arsenal Deal. This is Rav, as always, your host. How is everyone today? I am recording this first thing Saturday morning, Melbourne, Australian time. It's an impromptu recording. I wasn't planning on doing another recording before the Spurs match, but with everything that's been happening in the Arsenal landscape over the last sort of day and a half or so, I have plenty more thoughts to share, and I just thought I'd come back on and upload a few things because yes, I do have plenty more to say. It is a huge match. It always is. It's a North London derby. I know what they say. You chuck form out the door and league and ladder positions and all that sort of stuff on the table because this is just a chaotic time of the season. It's a very contrasting situation for Arsenal and Spurs. So that in itself warrants its own conversation. I also want to spend a bit of time just talking about the fallout from that Wolves, I guess you have to call it an implosion, that late implosion from Arsenal squandering a 2-0 lead to end up with just a point, how it's poised now, the feeling, the sentiment amongst the club. I've watched snippets. I haven't seen the full thing because, as I said, it's Saturday morning here in Australia. I've just seen a few snippets and clips about Arteta, his press conference, and of course, he always talks. He's very good in these moments, I must say. He always is. He talks with a lot of conviction, a lot of authority. He says all the right things as well because, you know, he's obviously managing the optics as well from publicly. He knows the fan base needs some reinsurance. I think we've all been, to various extents, we've all been a bit rocked, I guess, is maybe putting it lightly, from what we saw from Arsenal in that late on against Wolves. So that always transmits the right positive energy. I also know that the cynical side of me also knows that, he said very similar things just a fortnight ago or so after that United loss out of nowhere. So, you want to see more of a consistent response, I guess, from the players as well. Yeah, then I'll talk a bit about the North London derby, a bit of a selection prediction, which I always get wrong, but I'm going to have a crack anyway. So yeah, look, let's just get straight into it. I think the best place to start would be for anyone who listened to my post-match instant reaction against Wolves. Thank you, because maybe you're a sucker for punishment like me. I'm not surprised at all to see my numbers well and truly down, which is totally fine. I don't do this for the numbers or that sort of fanfare. I do it because it's a form of self-therapy too. I mean, I spend most of my time talking to myself anyway, right? When I'm looking into a mirror or brushing my teeth, I'm thinking about Arsenal, wondering about things, and I love the club from afar. So it's a bit more of an obsession, if anything. So this is just a bit of an avenue for me to publish and record and help compartmentalize my own thoughts anyway. So if you listened the other day, you would have noticed that I was very downbeat. I'm sorry for that, because I normally try and be very, very positive and look for the positive and be upbeat and try to look at things from a half cup full sort of perspective. I struggled through that recording. That's why I kept it so brief as well. And I didn't particularly feel good doing it. I didn't feel good afterwards, and I haven't felt really good since. I haven't slept that great since anyway, which is it happens anyway. Just with the I guess the commitments, the responsibilities of life. For those who don't know, I'm a stay-at-home dad anyway, so there's always enough responsibilities and challenges. Not helped when I'm waking up multiple times a night wondering just like, what the hell happened? How did we botch that? Could we have closed down that first goal? Why did Raya come out? How come Gabriel didn't call? Why didn't they see each other? Or what kind of mix-up happened before the ball was spilled and we ended up conceding that equaliser? So it's not helped by that. Anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, you can probably see I'm looking a bit rougher than I usually do. That's not to say I'm the prettiest of faces at the best of times anyway. So yeah, that's a long way to say I'm sorry for that. I will try not to cast such a downbeat shadow in this recording. I'll try and just sort of look to see where we place now. What do we do next? How are we going to handle the emotion as well? Because that's probably one of my major worries now. Before I get into the Spurs match and that sort of stuff, one of the things that I've been concerned about throughout the season, yes, we have a big squad. We all know that. I don't need to go through all that again. We know why we've invested as heavily as we have. We are in 4 competitions, right? We are gunning for everything. Essentially, we're going for all of it. And as you should. I mean, we've shown the ambition that fans like me and like many others over the decades, we've been crying out for this. We've been saying, Arsenal, show what we're made of. Like, go out there and show that willingness, that intent to go and eat at the top table. And that's what we've been doing. We are dining at the top table. We haven't quite got the trophies yet to show for it, but the ambition from the club is unanimous. We are going for everything. What I worry about, though, is it being stretched so thin. Now, I want to make a specific point here about it's not all gone for the league. Absolutely not. We're 5 points clear. Manchester City are hosting Newcastle tonight. Anything can still happen, even though I'm still expecting them to win. Newcastle were away midweek in the Champions League. Yes, they had a big win, but City have had an extra break. They're at home. They'd be heavily boosted now by Arsenal's. I guess our how do I put it? Our implosion. I just have to say it against Wolves. They're heavily boosted by that with their manager, their senior figures at the club. Even though they're not the same team of the City of old, they've still got the likes of Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Haaland. I can imagine they would have been all over the group chats on WhatsApp and whatnot. The other day that they would have been rallying the cry like that. They've got a huge statement. The crowd will be up for it too. They know that we've left the window open. We've left the door open. And you just don't do that. Regardless of their current league form in the 2026 iteration of Manchester City, it's just foolish to play with fire like this. It's absolutely foolish. So I'm expecting them to win and close down that gap to 2 points and before Arsenal kick off away at Spurs. The point I'm trying to make is that in us squandering our lead, I guess, what could have been a more sizable lead, we could have had 9 points, 11 points if you go back as far as the Forest game over January. In us doing that, unfortunately, what it means is, as much as I still believe we will win the league, I can't contemplate a scenario where we don't. It's a difficult thing for me to, a difficult prospect for me to consider. I'll come back to that another time. As much as I still believe, what it's going to take, though, is a lot of emotional expenditure from Arsenal. Now, I'm looking ahead to mid-late March, mid-late April, mid-late May, when it's Champions League knockout stages, round of 16, quarterfinal, semi-final, because we know that we're gunning for that too, and we have tremendous capacity as well to win multiple trophies. The problem now for Arsenal is in having such fine margins to deal with, not being able to really put our foot on the pedal and amass a greater lead, is that we are going to have to manage those weeks with all of our key players basically having to play all those minutes. I'm looking at the likes of Rice, Zubimendi, Saka, Havertz, hopefully, if he's back as much as possible, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel. We all know the names. You can rattle off 4 to 5 key essential players along the spine of the team who we know are going to be needed all hands on deck. In squandering a lead of what could have been, we've lost. When I say lost, we may not have now the benefit, the luxury of being able to sit them down for a league match against, say, if we're home or away to the likes of, say, Brighton or I know that there's Palace later on in the season. I'm just giving examples here. Sorry, I don't have the actual fixture in front of me. But what I'm trying to say is that we're going to have to put all of our chips now into the Champions League knockout matches and the league matches on the weekend. And historically, Arsenal have not been able to manage those big weeks. We just haven't. And I don't mean that as a criticism. I'm just going off more so what we've seen in the last few seasons. I mean, the prime example comes with that Bayern Munich week where 2 seasons ago we were amazing in the second half of that league season. We were incredible and we would have been worthy champions. Unfortunately, that week around the Bayern tie, when we lost to Aston Villa at home, that was the difference in the Premier League season. As much as it hurts to say and reflect on now, we made some substitutions at halftime in that match with the second leg of Bayern in mind. Taking off Odegaard, Smith Rowe coming on at the time. So it basically means is that we're going to have to empty the tank of all these key players, and this is my worry. It's one thing to have a big squad, yes, of course. However, in their utilization, we haven't really kind of seen that lately from Arteta. You look at the likes of Norgard. He's had very, very few minutes, proportional to what he's capable of. And I know that's come up a lot. It's come up in a lot of topics. A lot of other Arsenal podcasters mentioned the same thing too. They've all said the same recently as well. When you look at how we flagged late on in matches. When you look at like Ben White sitting on the bench and Timber playing every minute, Gabriel Martinelli, he was flagging late on against Wolves. He's played back-to-back 90 minutes. I could see it happening in front of us. Zubimendi was fading too, but we're not making the changes. We're emptying every reserve of energy from our key players, our key starters, and I think it's to our own detriment. I said this as well during that Brentford match, and it's kind of been proven now with the lengthy absence since of Odegaard. He hasn't featured since. He was injured in their goal. he should not have stayed on the pitch. It's one thing if you want to see if a player can just carry themselves through the injury, run it off, and play out the match. But that entire right side of the pitch was it was dysfunctional after that. Saka shouldn't have come on. Timber was flagging. He was spraying passes just like he was against Wolves. And I could see it happening. It's like, but we didn't make the change. Like, well, why are we doing that? It's one thing to carry one player, as dicey as that is, with the Premier League being so competitive as it is. But to have three players, basically just that whole right-hand corridor shutting down, like it was almost a liability. And I don't say that, I don't use that word lightly. I don't like saying that. But like we didn't make the change. We're squeezing every drop of our key players. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we've invested so heavily. Of course, Madueke has just scored the goal. We've got the players, we've got the resources, we've got the players on the bench. Make the change, use them. And that's my worry that historically Arteta, as the season goes on, it gets deeper and deeper into the season, we tend to sort of whittle down these the numbers of trusted players. We get down to this core group of maybe 13, 14 players, plus or minus, of course. And I just don't know that how we're going to be able to manage that this season and go in for 4 competitions. I've just got a feeling, everyone talks up this quadruple thing, and I don't. It's never really happened before, and it doesn't happen for a reason, because something has to give. Remember a couple of seasons ago, they were saying the same thing about Klopp in his final season at Liverpool. They could go for everything. And human nature is that you've only got so much to give. Something has to give at some point. Like, you can't squeeze every drop out of every single player and win everything. And look, there's going to naturally be some attrition in this sort of 4-pronged multiple front. I don't think we're going to be able to achieve all that. Not that I want to, by the way. I mean, I'd be so content with the Premier League. I would love that. I would love one of the 2 major trophies, the Champions League or the Premier League. If I had to pick one right now, I'm not sure if it works that way, but if I had to pick one, I really want the Premier League. I worry for Arsenal, our ability to go again after, I'm just not sure about 4 consecutive seasons finishing second or missing out. I know there's a whole narrative around that. There's a whole host of people waiting for Arsenal to quote unquote bottle it. And that word gets thrown around so much, the choking tag, the mentality tag. I understand that, and I get quite protective about that when I sort of hear that. I think it's harshly said. I don't really think you could question the second season. We threw everything we had at it, finished on 89 points, scored more goals than the Invincibles did in their historical season. I don't think you can call that a bottle. That was either team would have been worthy champions. The first season, sure, when we were maybe ahead of our time, yeah, maybe you can question that, and understandably, look, maybe we were ahead of our time as well in terms of maturity. We didn't quite have the capacity mentally to be able to manage it through. We've come a long way since then with our experience and mentality. This season, however, I would worry. I have to say, I would worry the consequences, what would happen if we don't lift it this season. Don't think we'd have many hiding places from those labels that would so easily be thrown around. And when I say I worry about it, is that I guess over the history of sport, and football is included in this, is that there can be associations of a certain period of a club or a team where they're so good but not quite good enough to get over the line. And if I just give some examples off the top of my head, I remember some great dynasties of the Chicago Bulls, right? That they won everything. But meanwhile, there were other great teams as well in the NBA. Remember the Seattle Supersonics in the first three-peat, the Sean Kemp era, that they were associated. They were a great team, yes, but they didn't win. They just couldn't quite conquer the dynasty at the time of the Bulls. They couldn't. And then later on, with the second three-peat was the Utah Jazz, Stockton, Malone. They were amazing, of course, legendary players, but they couldn't win. They couldn't get over the line. And you associate that team being also rans, perennial bridesmaids, as the saying goes here in Australia. And now I'll worry about what that does in terms of a mentality. How many more times can you go back internally into the internal reserves and say, okay, we're going to go again. And if you look at this season in particular, if you look at how the cards were laid for Arsenal, everything has been stacked in our favour. We weren't involved in any pre-season major tournament, the Club World Cup. That's, maybe Chelsea have fallen away because of that, because of the extra workload of that tournament. Manchester City, by the way, as well, maybe some of their league form, their indifferent league form so far, has been on the fallout because of how early their season started compared to ours. There was no Euros, no World Cup. We basically were able to have a summer off aside from the preseason tours. But I remember at the time, players could go on holiday. I remember seeing all the images of like Odegaard and Havertz and their respective families, they're holidaying away, which is fantastic. That they need that. You got to have life outside football. It's unrelenting enough. So there's a lot of things in Arsenal's favour that we won't have next season. I mean, there's the World Cup this season, of course, and we know all of our major players are going to be there because as a natural byproduct of being a great team is that you've got great players who all represent their respective countries. So we know Saka's going to play every minute possible. Rice will for England, and you can go through the entire squad, and they're all basically internationals in their own rights. I don't think we're going to have an opportunity like this. Is that what I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I hope I'm articulating this point well. Is that I really feel this is the season, and that's not to say it's all or nothing or it's lost ever again. But I worry about the mentality. I worry about the consequences. I worry about Arteta as well. Are they going to be able to pick themselves up off the canvas and go again next season? I don't know about that. This is just my feeling. This is my sentiment. Just of my experience watching sport and my life experience, I'm happy to be wrong because I don't care about being right. I want to be happy. I want Arsenal to win. I want Arsenal to win everything. Trust me, I'm not egotistical to say I was right about this, I was right about that. Please prove me wrong. I absolutely want that because I want to be happy. I want us to enjoy this. I want us to lift the major trophies. I want it for the fan base. I want it for the players. I want it for Arteta. I want it for the club. I want it for me as well. I love this club. I've been following football for 30 years, and I've got that Arsenal-related trauma that has resurfaced this season. That collapse against Wolves, that's brought up some bad memories of that burning it. But to this day, I don't understand what happened there. How did we botch it? I know there was a very emotional game with that horrific challenge on Eduardo, and we have every right to be angry and incensed by that. And Wenger, he was very strongly worded after the match, and still we just didn't manage that. At that cliche moment, still, whenever that name is mentioned, Gael Clichy, I think to myself, what was he doing? Wayne Bridge as well in the Champions League in that invincible season at Highbury. Every now and then that resurfaces, that trauma resurfaces, and it's been great because that's been quiet for so long because we've been quietly going about our business. We've been amassing points tally this season. We've been incredible. We've handled big occasions, big nights, big European nights away at Athletic Club Bilbao that I spoke about so much at the time. The way we managed the emotion and the energy of that match was amazing. St. James's Park early in the season, the way we managed that, they were baying for blood as they always do. Newcastle hate Arsenal of late and their fans love to dance on our grave, and the way we stood up, we looked them in the eye and we took it from them. It was sensational. I still love reflecting on that last minute winner from Gabriel. So this team is built different, yes. However, as it goes on and on, we know that almost every match now is an occasion. The last few matches have been, nighttime matches. There's been a heavy TV spotlight on Arsenal, especially against Brentford. Everyone else had played. It was our time in the spotlight, and we didn't handle that occasion well. As we get deeper and deeper into the season, we know it's all to play for, and the other clubs know it too. They want to test themselves against the best. Fans want to come see Arsenal. Arsenal was a big ticket in town. You saw that in Europe too. Our Champions League away matches all sold out, packed evenings, because we're a great team and we're a spectacle. And we just got to manage now as a privilege. Arteta refers this to as a privilege of being in this position. We've got to manage environments. We've got to manage stadiums. We've got to manage atmospheres, energy. And we didn't do that against Wolves, unfortunately, when their crowd sprung to life with a few, there was a few heavy challenges going in, the Wolves were getting quite bitey and angry. They were giving it back to Arsenal, quite physical at times. The crowd were really up for it. We didn't manage that. We didn't respond in kind. We looked, unfortunately, we went into our shells. We looked timid. I don't use that word lightly as well. We looked a bit scared. And that was the worrying sign. The body language was troubling to me. The body language was, yes. The body language amongst the players, the panic. Jesus at full time as well, trying to start a fight out of nowhere. And I know he's a very troublesome character, that Mosquera guy, and he has a lot of history with Arsenal. That I think he was the choke slam guy on Havertz, and he basically sexually assaulted Jesus as well with the way he grabbed him. I don't say that word lightly either, by the way, but it was horrendous what I saw. Like how is this guy still on the pitch? So I know there's history there as well. But when you react that way, I don't know what was said, and maybe someone can correct me, please. But when you react that way, you're adding fuel to the fire now. You're giving this narrative to everyone else from the outside looking in, saying, "Oh, look at Arsenal, look at them, they're collapsing, they're mentally fragile." And it was a very unusual set of circumstances, that match. I haven't seen that from Arsenal I haven't seen that all season, to be honest, for a long time, because what we've been able to do amazingly well is insulate ourselves from those controversies. We're not really now. Remember how much of last season was dominated by, and I myself got sucked into it because I was recording then. How many times do we have to talk about red cards, second yellow cards for delaying the restart, and all those controversies, and that Miles Lewis Skelly sending off, and like all the refereeing, officiating stuff, and it was so draining. But what we've done this season is that we've distanced ourselves from that. We've just we've just said, no, we're just going to conduct ourselves in a professional way, sorry. And we were just going out there and doing our talking on the pitch, and that's fantastic. So to see the body language, to see the way we collapsed against Wolves, 20th place team, basically a debutant coming on and equalising. I know it was an own goal, but it's just this kind of stuff. This is why it's opened up that Arsenal related trauma of years gone past. It shouldn't be happening. And I didn't expect it from this current version of Arsenal. I guess that's probably the most troubling thing out of all of this. So thank you for that little side rant. I went on a bit of a tangent there, but that was just a long, long way of saying that it's just so important that we refocus, recapture that composure that we've otherwise displayed all season, really. We are having a bit of a blip lately. I think you have to say that like it is. I think it's 10 points from the last 21. But that's right, 10 points from the last 7 matches. That's not title-winning form. And like I said before, I think the consequence of that will be felt later in the season when we're going to have to basically squeeze every last drop out of players during those big weeks, unfortunately. But we'll come to that when we come to that. Right here, right now, we have an opportunity. We are going to Spurs I was about to say tomorrow night, but it's Monday morning Australian time, 3:30 a.m. I don't know how much I'm going to sleep, but by the way, I'm just saying that now. I've already told my wife, my family, that I'm probably going to be, I'd be lucky to get a couple of hours before that match. I'm nervous already thinking about it because I know that they're terrible. I know that they look at their league position, but you throw all that out the window because you look at the circumstances of this match. We played 3 times since their last match. They've changed manager. The new manager bounce. How many is that, by the way, this season? Seems like Arsenal have had so many new manager bounces this season. Seems unusual. But anyway, we've been able to manage that so far. It hasn't really affected us too much since, and I'm going to have to do it again. But speaking of Bane for blood, from a crowd point of view and from a club point of view, how much they would love to do Arsenal at their stadium on Monday morning and derail us because that's sometimes that's all they've got when they have a long lead time, a long run up to play us, and they don't really have much else to play for. This is all they've got. You saw it against Manchester United, that all they could really come to do was, with their new manager bounce and a week off, is just prepare themselves to come to the Emirates and rain on our parade. And full credit to them, they did that. So their fans were dancing with glee as a result. And I think Spurs will be looking at this as the same. Their fans will be right up for it too. They want to come and derail Arsenal. That's all they've got. And what we got to do is make sure that we don't give them their moment. Don't let them have that. This is our time. It's our moment. We still have control of this title race. Yes, I know technically City do as well, because there's a huge match in April when Arsenal go to the Etihad Stadium. I'm in England for that time as well. By the way, I haven't spoken about that too much. I will. Maybe I'll come to that another time. But my whole family is coming along with me to experience London, and we're going to try and get to a couple of Arsenal matches if we can. That's going to be an enormous match. It's just what the broadcasters want. It's what everyone else from the outside looks in. They want this title race. It's going to be a very, very big occasion for Arsenal to manage. But right now, we got to focus on tomorrow night, Monday morning, because it's still within our control. Even if City win, it's still a 2-point lead. We can go and respond in kind and put that pressure back on. And yes, City have their game in hand, but for me, you just got to keep amassing the points. Don't give them that sniff. Don't give them the opportunity. Don't give them any more than we already have, because we have earned this right. We've earned this privilege to be in this position. Why would you throw it away now? We just cannot allow that to seep in. You must get back to business. We must be prepared for the chaos and the energy that's going to come our way against Spurs, and we have to respond on the pitch. This is the time where you write legacies. The great players, this is where they write their time, write their stories. We have a blank sheet of paper in front of us and a pen in our hand. We get to write the next chapter. We get to decide what happens next. And you're looking at the likes of Gabriel, Saliba, Declan Rice, Saka, who I haven't even mentioned. An enormous moment for the club, his contract extension. I understand it may not get the accolades or the significance that it probably deserves in its own right. I'm sure it was strategic timing as well from the club to announce it off the back of, what happened against Wolves. So perhaps in that respect, it's a bit of a shame that about the timing, but I reckon it was probably planned anyway as well to be announced in the lead up to the North London derby. And in a different set of circumstances, I'm sure it'll have a lot more headlines than it actually has, and it warrants more. And it's a very significant moment. He spoke so beautifully. I think he represents the club so well. I'm so proud to have him associated with Arsenal in terms of his values as an ambassador for the club. And I loved what he said, that he wants to repay that faith, that adulation he receives from the club. It means so much to him, and he wants to basically win everything at Arsenal. And it's tremendous to hear. And he's got the opportunity to show it, by the way. Now's the time for the players to stand up and be counted. Those big players, the big legacies, this is where you write them. Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, Gabriel, this is their time. That we want to see it from them on the pitch. They've earned the right to be in this position. They've been so pivotal, bringing Arsenal back this far onto the precipice of absolute glory. And now is their time to see it through. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing their response. Hopefully they're all fit and available against Spurs, because they have tremendous success against them. Your big game players step up. Look at Gabriel's history against Spurs. He owns them, basically. They're so scared of him. Every time there's a corner or a set piece, he owns them. And this is the time now to stand up and be counted. And we've got players there who all are capable. It's a matter of going out there and showing it and doing it when it matters, because it's never mattered more than now, by the way. So the last little segment of this, I'll just have a crack at it about selection and a predicted lineup. With what I've just said as well about needing your big players, as many of them who are fit and available to start this one, I think we need to. Interestingly, Arteta said that Trossard is fine. By the way, on Trossard as well, just speaking about reflecting on my post-match recording, I got it completely wrong about Trossard. So if you listen to that, I'm so sorry. What would have happened at the time that when he got injured and he came on, I missed the substitution. I think I was on my phone. I was in my WhatsApp group. So, with fellow Arsenal fans wondering what I'm wondering as well, is like what is going on here? Like how have we conceded like that? And we were all nervous that we're going to concede an equaliser, and we basically did momentarily afterwards. So I got it wrong about Trossard. It looked like a very nasty a clash and deserving of a second yellow card. So there was some worries about concussion protocols, but I think Arteta has said that he's fine, he's okay. I'm not sure if he should start though. The lineup I want to see is that I think Eze needs to play. I mean, when he scored a hat-trick against them in the last match, you have to play him. And now's a great time to play him on the left. It's one of those things that I don't understand why we haven't seen more of. Just like I've said, we should see more White coming on to relieve Timber at right back, and more Norgard coming on to reaffirm the midfield. I don't know why Eze, ever since that Aston Villa incident, I mean, that's been several months ago now. Like at some point we have to move on, and his defensive game has improved rapidly since. You saw how he works his socks off against Chelsea and whatnot in the EFL Cup. Like he's learned from that, it seems. So I think we need to play him. I'd love to see Eze start on the left. I don't think we should start Martinelli in this one. He's had 2 full-on matches, and unfortunately for Martinelli in the Premier League, something happens when he's in front of goal. Now's a perfect opportunity. I think it should be Eze on the left. If Havertz is fit, I'd be surprised if he starts. I don't want to push him too hard, but maybe you could start with Gyökeres and bring Havertz on maybe at halftime or just after the second half. I think Bukayo back to the right will be fine. If Odegaard is fit, again, is he ready to start? I'm not quite sure, but you've got the option of Saka in midfield again. Either way, I just want him on the pitch because he's such an intelligent, clever footballer. In a match like this, I just want him on the pitch. I'm fine whichever side he plays. I think Rice and Zubimendi have to play, of course. Interestingly, we will then have a week off this week. I don't think we play again until Chelsea the next week. The last time we had that was I think it was late November, early December. So a welcome respite for the players who could kind of need it. So you're basically putting all your chips in now into this match. All your key players were fit and ready to start. We need them to. There's a question mark at fullback as well. Do you start Calafiori? Do you start Hincapié? I'd go with Hincapié again. I think he performed really well. One of the players to come out of that Wolves match, with their reputation still largely intact. So I would play him as well. Timber or White, I don't mind. I just think you need to manage the load of Yuri Timber. I'm worried about that. He looks in the red zone to me, but he may want to play as well. He knows the significance of this match. And I think Raya needs a big game. He's had a few nervy moments, even against Brentford, his old club. There was a couple of moments where unusual from him. When he rolled the ball out, he basically turned it over straight away, made a great save from it too, of course, to make up for his error. However, just unusual from Raya. Just his distribution has been a bit off. He's been spilling balls that he normally gobbles up and catches. He needs a big moment. He needs a big game as well. And Arsenal need a big moment. I know I've mentioned that Newcastle match a lot, but remember the momentum a match like that gives you, like a big F-off win. I don't want to say the word, but for those of you who listen to the amazing Amy Lawrence on the Handbrake Off podcast, she refers to the significance of those big F-off wins. I think we need one. We need a rallying moment like that, just a catalyst, just to spring forward, to snowball, to regain that momentum and just light that fire back inside the club and the belief and the players. We need just a big, significant moment. We've done enough of this sort of timid, uncertain, what are we doing, sort of meandering style of play. We need to dial that right up, dial up the urgency, dial up the authority, dial up the conviction, and just go there and just have a massive performance, a massive win, dance on their parade, right? Celebrate in front of the home fans on their turf, and let's just go out there and get it done. That's what we need, and we can just rewrite the narrative here, propel the story back in our favor. We've earned the right to be here. Now's the time to make it count. So on that note, I've been wafting on for a long, long time. I'm mindful of the time as well. So I'm going to bring this one to a close. Thank you so much for listening, putting up with me, putting up with my self-therapy. Please let me know your thoughts. How are you feeling wherever you are in the world? I read every single word of feedback, every comment. So please do reach out. Let me know. And I'll be back on post-match on Monday morning after the Spurs result. Rain, hail or shine, whatever happens, I'll be back on. So please follow me on Apple or Spotify, your audio platform. Leave me a 5-star review. That'll be so much appreciated, please. Like and subscribe on YouTube. More content to come. And really, really appreciate the small and very loyal audience I have. Thank you so much to you. You're one of the reasons why this makes it so easy for me just to continue to talk to myself, basically in the screen, doing my solo therapy. So thank you so much. Look after yourselves. I'll talk to you all again soon. And come on, Arsenal.